We take you to Newark, New Jersey. This is the hearse. Whitney Houston's body is in that hearse right now, pulling up to the New Hope Baptist Church. You can see the camera crews running towards the hearse. The funeral service begins at 12 noon Eastern Time, which is about 2.5 hours from now, but we did expect in this hour for people to start arriving for the ceremony. But you are now looking at what we believe is the hearse carrying Whitney Houston's body. This is Newark, New Jersey. It's the largest city in New Jersey, population 277,000. It was a much bigger city when she was born there in the 1960s, but after the 1967 riots in Newark, many people left. There were more than 420,000 people in Newark then. Her family ended up leaving to nearby East Orange, New Jersey, which is just west of Newark. But this was her church her whole life. She was a little girl who sang here. This was a very special place for her, and this is where their family thought it was apropos to have the funeral service today. So thousands of people are expected in the neighborhood to see things like the hearse arriving, to see the celebrities who arrive, and to pay respect to Whitney Houston, one of the most famous and amazing pop singers in the world. The hearse containing the body of Whitney Houston is on its way to the church, the New Hope Baptist Church, where her funeral service will be held beginning at 12 o'clock Eastern Time, about 2.5 hours from now. This is a shot of when it first left on the way to the church. This church, a very important part of Whitney Houston's life. We've been showing videotape over the last few days of Whitney Houston as a little girl. She was about 12 or 13 years old, singing gospel singing inside that very church where her funeral service will be held today. Initially, the talk was, there was some speculation that the service would be held at the Prudential Center. That's a brand new stadium in downtown Newark. It's where the New Jersey Nets NBA team plays. It fits about 19,000 people. That was the speculation. But it's understandable, the family decided to have a more personal service. You could see on the side of the hearse that appeared to be a picture of Whitney Houston on the side door, on the side window there. But the family made the decision to have this a very important part of their life and Whitney Houston's life, the New Hope Baptist Church. There will be many celebrities singing, praying, laughing, and crying. You can see the media chasing the car. It doesn't seem particularly respectful, but that's the way things work sometimes, and the police escort in front. But this is Newark, New Jersey, where Whitney Houston was born. She grew up for many years in East Orange, New Jersey, right next to Newark, and that's where she went to elementary school. But Newark is where she was born, Newark is where she went to church, and that is where she's returning now. The body of Whitney Houston going to the church. The funeral service begins 12 o'clock Eastern Time. We'll have more right after the break. It's a sad day for millions around the world. You're looking at a live picture of the funeral procession on the way to the New Hope Baptist Church and the hearse containing the body of Whitney Houston, who died a week ago today. Our national correspondent Jason Carroll is near that procession right now. He's in Newark, New Jersey, where services will begin 2.5 hours from now. Jason, I understand you have some new information about what's going to take place today.
I do, Gary. I spoke to a friend of the Houston family who gave me in all detail exactly what we will be hearing, what we will be seeing when the service takes place, scheduled for about noon. But this family friend telling me so many people are going to be packing into the New Hope Baptist Church, they might have to slide it back just a little bit. But let's go over the program for you. It will begin with the processional. The New Hope Mass Choir, along with the New Jersey Mass Choir, will be jointly singing "The Lord is My Shepherd," and so that's how things will open. That will be followed by a scripture read by Pastor Joe Carter. And when I spoke to Pastor Carter a little earlier this week, he told me, yes, there will be tears, but this will also be a musical celebration of Whitney Houston's life, and you'll be hearing about that to follow. Next will be a solo by Donnie McClurkin singing "Stand," followed by remarks by filmmaker Tyler Perry, who was close to Whitney Houston and the Houston family. That will be followed by a solo by B.B. Winan singing "Home." Then we will hear from Bishop T.D. Jakes. He will be giving his remarks. That will be followed by a solo by gospel singer Kim Burrell. I spoke to Kim Burrell also earlier this week. She told me she will be singing I Believe in You and Me. Gary, that is a song that was actually chosen by Houston's family. That will be followed by remarks by Kevin Costner. Everyone knows that he, of course, was Whitney Houston's co-star in Bodyguard. And then we will hear from Aretha Franklin. She will be singing a solo. She will be singing Greatest Love of All. Of course, Aretha Franklin, the Queen of Soul, also happened to be Whitney Houston's godmother. Then we will hear from Clive Davis, who was Whitney Houston's mentor for many, many years throughout her musical career. Then Stevie Wonder will lend his voice, and we will be hearing him sing A Ribbon in the Sky. Also, remarks by Ricky Minor, the band leader. And then after he gives his remarks, Alicia Keys will lend her voice. We're told she will be singing a medley of songs. That will be followed by R. Kelly. He will stand up and he will sing I Look to You. And then finally, Gary, we will hear from Whitney Houston's family. We know that Patricia Houston, her sister-in-law, will lend her voice, and final words will come from Dionne Warwick. The entire service is expected to last a little more than 3 hours, and we were told Whitney Houston will finally be laid to rest tomorrow. Gary?
And we understand she's being laid to rest in Westfield, New Jersey, which is about 25 minutes south of Newark at a cemetery there. Jason, I don't know if you can see the pictures that we're looking at right now, but the hearse has pulled up to the church. What's interesting about that area, it's two different cities that she grew up in, Newark and East Orange, but they're very close to each other. This church is about 15 minutes to the west of the house that she spent many years in, the middle-class home in East Orange, New Jersey, where she spent her grade school years. So it's just so sad to watch and so emotional when you know that this church was such an important part of her life and her family's life. And now, as we speak, this very moment, it almost gives you a chill thinking about it because it's so sad. But at this very moment, this hearse with her body is pulling up to this church for such a sad day. Tell me how people are reacting that you're talking to, Jason, who knew her or were so proud that they lived in the same area that she grew up in.
Well, you know, you touched on part of it, there, Gary. When you speak to people out here in this community, Whitney Houston grew up here and became a superstar, but she never forgot her roots. And in fact, at the New Hope Baptist Church, it wasn't unusual for Whitney Houston to come back on holidays and lend her voice and sing or just attend church. A number of people here knew of her family, may have known Sissy, may have known some of the other Houstons in the area. And so she never left her roots here. People still felt connected to her. They may not have known her personally, but they were personally affected by her because she kept such close ties to her community. You know, I spoke to one man who came up from South Carolina, and he said, you know, Sissy Houston taught me in the choir. I knew the Houston family. I wanted to come up and pay my respects. This is a woman who never forgot where her heart was. Gary?
Jason, one more thing. How many people are expected inside the church? And do we expect thousands of people outside, too?
Well, Pastor Carter told me that the church seats about 1,500. He said he expects it to be packed. In terms of the number of people fans who might be showing up outside and in the surrounding area, as you know, the area around New Hope Baptist Church has been blocked off. The closest fans who do show up who might be able to get into the area would be at least 2 blocks away. So there might be sprinkling of fans in and around the church, in and around the area. The police are suggesting it's best to stay home and watch the service on television.
The body of Whitney Houston has arrived at her church. Jason Carroll, thank you very much for your report. Now, she didn't act like a superstar. That's what one former executive from Whitney Houston's record company says about her. We'll hear from him next. We take you live to the New Hope Baptist Church, where about 2 hours and 20 minutes from now, the funeral service for Whitney Houston is scheduled to begin. You can see the balloons and the flowers. They've been there for days. But what's been there just for a few seconds, or precisely a few minutes actually, is the hearse containing the body of Whitney Houston. The hearse arrived a short time ago, a funeral procession down the streets of Newark, New Jersey, from the funeral home to the church where the service is being held. We expect about 1,500 people to be inside the church, thousands of people outside in the 2-block area where it's cordoned off to watch all the goings-on. The pictures you're looking at right now are when the hearse left the funeral home on the way, about a 15-minute ride from the funeral home to the church. Originally, there were many people who thought that the Prudential Center Stadium, which is the stadium in downtown Newark where the NBA team, the New Jersey Nets, play, was going to be the site of this funeral service because so many people obviously would want to go and be a part of this. But the family made the very understandable decision to hold the funeral service just about 10 minutes away from the stadium, but in a very important place in their lives, the New Hope Baptist Church, which is where Whitney Houston sang as a child. My colleague Don Lemon is with us live right now, and I understand, Mr. Lemon, that you are with the Reverend Jesse Jackson.
The Reverend Jesse Jackson, Reverend DeForest Soaries, both are very good friends with the family here. Thank you both for joining us. Were you at the funeral home this morning, Reverend?
We were earlier today. You know, we feel such awesome pain and yet joy. The pain is the suddenness of Whitney's transition. And yet she lived to be 48. She covered as much ground in 48 years as many people covered in 96. Dr. King left us at 39. Malcolm at 39. Donny Hathaway and Jesus at 33. So we have to thank God for what we did have. We had an awful lot. Sissy is doing better. She was so traumatized. She felt that Whitney was in recovery and doing quite well, prepared to perform again. We must know that her first music teacher was her mother.
Yeah.
Her first choir director was her mother. And people really must appreciate that while our mother never made it to the stage that Whitney made it to. Yeah. Tremendous singer in her own right, the sweet inspiration. She sang with Aretha Franklin, with Elvis Presley. And so she gave her both birth and an environment out of which Whitney rose to these unfathomable heights of greatness.
Yeah. Reverend Stam, I want to talk to you also. DeForest Soaries, a very good friend of the family's. He mentioned Sissy, the mother, also Chrissy, the daughter, and it's time now to be respectful to the family, as we've been saying in the media, and to pay tribute to Whitney Houston and her mother and her daughter and the entire family, what they're dealing with.
Well, nobody can imagine the pain of losing a child unless they've lost a child, or losing a mother unless they've lost a mother. And so our complete focus all week has been on praying for and holding hands with and comforting the family. The fact is, joy comes in the morning, but the morning may not come quickly. And so we are here to affirm the fact that God has a place for each of us when our burdens are over on this side.
Yeah, and can explain to everyone saying, I was trying to explain to, because people are watching us from all over the world, what a homegoing ceremony means, especially in the black community. That means we're sending you off. We are sad, but we're also celebrating the life that you did live.
Well, that's exactly right. I heard a fella on the network this morning call us a homecoming. This is a homegoing, assuming that life is like a hotel. We check in and we check out. Some check out early, some check out late, but we all check out. And when we check out, we go home.
Yeah. This transition from the temporary to the eternal, we have a sense of that this is a highly spiritual occasion. For those who have been unmercifully critical, I would say let those who would obtain mercy be merciful. Judge not lest you be judged. We know we reveal our successes and our highs. We conceal our pain. We have no idea of its depth, but God knows, and we leave that to the realm of God to handle that mystery. But today we pause, we preach, we praise, we celebrate.
And Reverend Jesse Jackson, you're known all over the world. Reverend Forrester Soaries, you're known here.
All over the neighborhood.
You're known all over the United States. But we know that you are a reverend here, and you're a very good friend of the family's. Explain to our viewers globally your relationship to the Houston family and to this community.
Well, Whitney's dad, John Houston, helped usher in the era of black politics in Newark. And as a college student, I came here to help Kenneth Gibson become mayor. And that's how I met her father, John Houston, and her mother, Whitney, Emily Houston, who we call Sissy, was a choir director, as Jesse said, in the church behind us. And so I've known them for over 40 years. When she was 14 years old, she was the lead singer at a choir rehearsal we put together.
Nippy, you called it.
Nippy, for the Hawkins singers to come in. She sang Tremaine's part. And so I've known her since she was wearing plaid skirts going to Catholic school. And she's been a friend and a sister. We prayed for her. We celebrated with her. And so I feel like I've lost a family member today.
Also, Reverend Thomas, who was her pastor, was on Dr. King's board. Dr. King frequented this church as well. She comes out of a tremendous sense of social justice background. So many of us saw the parallels. Aretha, we heard Aretha at 12 years old, and I'll never grow old out of her father's church. We hear Nippy, as it were, coming out of this church.
And she was nicknamed Nippy by her dad from, it's a cartoon character, when she was a baby, a cartoon character that always got into trouble. So she was always into something. She was a precocious kid, as many kids
always,
are.
But she always had that extra. You can tell when some kids have that, what we call a special anointing. Aretha had that special something at around 14. You could just kind of see it and hear it. And Whitney had that special something. And good news is she cultivated it and took it to a very high level.
Yeah. Reverend